A conman turned sadistic mastermind, he didn't just manipulate his victims. He controlled their minds, turning families against each other in a horrifying cycle of torture and betrayal. How did one man orchestrate such unspeakable crimes without ever getting his hands dirty? We're talking about one of the most disturbing serial killing duos in Japan's history. Hey everyone, welcome back to Criminal Minds Podcast. I'm Brian, and today we have a case that's as disturbing as it is baffling. A story of mind control, psychological torture, and murder so chilling it's hard to believe it actually happened. If you thought you'd heard the worst of true crime, buckle up. This case will leave you speechless. That we're talking about the horrific crimes of Futoshi Matsunaga and Junko Ogata, one of the most disturbing serial killing duos in Japan's history. Before we begin, a quick warning. This case contains extremely graphic details, including torture and psychological abuse. If you're sensitive to these topics, please listen with caution. All right, let's get into it. Born in 1961, Futoshi Matsunaga grew up in picturesque Yangawa, Japan. While he was a good student, Futoshi's early life was also plagued with disciplinary problems at school, leading to a high school transfer when it was discovered he was having a relationship with a younger girl in junior high. After graduating, Futoshi then married and had a son when he was just 19. Futoshi was a charmer though, and had relationships with various women, reportedly having 10 mistresses. In 1982, he met Junko Ogata, the woman with whom he would commit various crimes. It was a relationship full of abuse that extended out to the family, which included the rape of Junko's mother. Matsunaga eventually separated from his wife and moved in with Junko in 1985. While Matsunaga's previous behavior was horrendous, he stepped into the realm of the psychopathy when he built a soundproof room in the third floor of his futon company's building where he would electrically shock employees. The futon company was also where Matsunaga engaged in fraud and blackmail, stealing 180 million yen. The fraud ended with Futoshi and Junko being placed on Japan's most wanted list in 1992. They managed to avoid capture, but even with the attention of national law enforcement on him, that didn't keep Futoshi from exploiting others. In 1993, Futoshi seduced a woman and, after telling her that Junko was merely his sister, managed to convince her to leave her husband. After the suspicious death of one of the woman's 3 children, the other 2 were sent to live with their father. The woman herself died of mysterious circumstances in 1994, but only after Futoshi had managed to defraud her of 11.8 million yen. Futoshi's next victims were a man named Kumio Toraya and his daughter. Kumio had made the mistake of trusting Futoshi and revealed that he had a criminal background. Futoshi jumped on the information and began blackmailing Kumio. Eventually, Kumio and his daughter were held captive in Futoshi's condominium, where he tortured them. This included Kumio being forced to eat his own feces, as well as making them hurt each other to avoid being electrically shocked. Kumio ended up dead due to this abuse, but Futoshi managed to convince Kumio's daughter that it was her doing and that she needed to get rid of the corpse. Kumio's daughter was held captive until 2002 when she managed to reach the cops on a second escape attempt. There, She revealed Futoshi's crimes, which included more fraud, murder, and even cannibalism, and that's where Junko Ogata comes in. She met Matsunaga in the late 1980s. At the time, she was a well-behaved, intelligent young woman from a strict family. But once she got involved with Matsunaga, her life took a terrifying turn. Ogata was born in Kurume, Fukuoka Prefecture, and grew up in a wealthy family. She was Matsunaga's schoolmate in high school, but she did not know him very well, and he transferred to another school. She was originally a gentle person and got a job in a preschool, but changed after she started dating Matsunaga in 1982. Ogata had remained a virgin until she became involved with Matsunaga, but he suspected her of having relationships with other men. During their relationship, she and Matsunaga had 2 sons. Matsunaga didn't just abuse Ogata, he completely rewired her mind. He convinced her that she was worthless, that her family was against her, and that he was the only person she could trust. It was classic cult-like psychological control. He started isolating her from her family, using extreme physical and mental abuse to break her down. And somehow, he managed to convince her to help him in his crimes. And that's where this case gets even darker. Because Matsunaga and Ogata didn't just kill, they destroyed entire families. One of the most horrifying aspects of this case is what happened to Junko Ogata's own family. Matsunaga manipulated her into bringing her entire family under his control. Her parents, her sister, and even her nephews. And what happened next is beyond comprehension. Over the course of months, Matsunaga systematically tortured them, both psychologically and physically. He forced them to turn against each other, inflicting horrific pain as a form of control. One by one, they died either from the torture itself or from being forced to kill each other under Matsunaga's orders. He turned a family home into a psychological horror story. A trial revealed how Futoshi coerced Junko to kill her father through electric shocks. Junko's sister Reiko and her husband were coerced into killing Reiko's mother. Reiko's husband was then forced to strangle her, with their 10-year-old daughter holding Reiko down. Reiko's husband was then locked in a bathroom and starved to death. If corpses weren't thrown into the ocean, they were boiled down into pieces and then thrown away. The saddest part? Didn't even get his hands dirty most of the time. He manipulated his victims into hurting each other, making them believe they had no choice. The killing spree came to an end when Ogata's last surviving family member, her nephew, managed to escape and go to the police. That's when authorities finally uncovered the sheer horror of what had been happening. Matsunaga and Ogata were arrested in 2002. The details that came out during the trial were so shocking that even seasoned investigators were horrified. The level of mind control and brutality was something they had never seen before. In 2005, Matsunaga was sentenced to death. Junko Ogata, despite being a victim of his control, was also sentenced to life in prison for her role in the killings. What makes this case so terrifying isn't just the murders. It's how Matsunaga controlled people to the point where they willingly participated in their own destruction. It's one of those cases that makes you wonder, how far can manipulation go? How does a seemingly normal person become complicit in something so evil? And what's even scarier, There could be people like Matsunaga out there right now, using charm and psychological tactics to control others in ways we can't even see. This case is a warning. Trust your instincts, question authority, and never underestimate the power of manipulation. That's it for today's episode. The case of Futoshi Matsunaga and Junko Ogata is one of the darkest true crime stories in Japan's history, and it's one that sticks with you long after you hear it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think was the most chilling part of this case? And do you think Junko Ogata was a victim, or was she just as guilty? And if you've been enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share. It helps us bring more stories like this to light. Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you next time.